Welcome to Brightly Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul-driven advice and topics to help you live more brightly in mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
Awesome.
Hey.
So, yeah. Hey. Anything come up for you since the last episode?
Death? Death-like symptoms?
Gosh.
Is that
Explain, please.
Our past few episodes have kind of been around like holding funerals for things you need to let go of, tiny transformations or even big transformations that might occur after you make space for things to happen in your life. And I started balancing kind of the scales of what I've happily released, what left on its own. And then what I was kind of left with is what I'm clinging on to.
Oh, dear.
And prior to that reflection, I were to say it's clinging on to me or that it's not so much of a choice.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it made me think of the Death Tarot card, where there's the man and the woman in front of the devil, or not the Death Tarot card, the Devil Tarot card, man and the woman standing in front of the devil, and they each have on they're like chained, but the necklaces, the chains around their neck, they could just take them off.
Yeah.
They could just let themselves go. And so I kind of feel like there's things where I am holding myself back from being the best version of myself.
Why?
It's more comfortable, Amy.
Well, there's something, yes, huge to be said about that. It is more comfortable not to push out, right? It's so comfortable just to stay cozied up here and have some tea and a nice little book that you've read 3 times before and an episode on Netflix or a series that you've watched 4 times before.
I may have part of my little analysis of me here in the business of being me had to recognize Tracy, you just started West Wing season 1 again. What's going on? How you feeling? It's a really good show. You've seen it before. You've seen it a few times. So it's one of those things though. So I don't quite know where I'm necessary. Well, okay, I have some ideas of where I'm holding myself back, but we'll get to that later. But there's so many ways I feel like people hold themselves back from the best version of them that are kind of socially accepted behaviors. And they may be overly attached or reliant on that behavior because either it protects them, they think it's why they're successful, they don't realize it's actually getting in the way of something better and holding them back. I'd compare it, I'm not going to say it's an addiction. Brene Brown describes addictions as like compulsive and chronic numbing, which I feel like some of the things we'll be talking about today could fall in that. But these behaviors, much like addictions, they're typically a symptom of a larger issue and they serve a purpose, right? So some of these things might qualify as an addiction when you kind of do the analysis for yourself. Some of them just might be some behaviors and choices and routines you've fallen into. And if once you identify them, you might be able to easily replace them because you'll get all the good dopamine once they're gone and you'll like the new stuff better. But so like some kind of acceptable, either socially accepted behaviors or addictions, there are a lot that are really well known and vary in acceptability, like alcohol, sex, nicotine, dieting, weight obsession, overspending, right? And then there is some that
I want to interject on the overspending. There's literally a book series, The Shopaholic, and it's funny and cute and bestsellers and everyone thinks it's a hoot. I haven't read them because I literally had that problem. So for me, it was like, why would I read about that?
Yeah.
But anyways,
But
yes,
yeah, so that's an example of where it comes up in pop culture. And this
socially
person,
acceptable.
I've read one of the book, or I haven't read one of the books, but I have seen the first movie that came out on it.
Oh,
And it
there's
was,
movies.
there's a movie, yeah. Isla Fisher, I think, is the star of it. Like she freezes her credit card in a big chunk of ice and has to like hack it out with a high-heeled shoe.
Yeah.
But anyway, but like, yeah, they do frame like this thing that's kind of messed up her life and caused her some significant struggle as like, haha, funny. And look at this girl that dresses like Barbie, right? Like they do make it seem like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are some that are well known but might be seen as like a choice or a lifestyle, and a lot of like caffeine, sugar, food, exercise. Like how many people are like, oh, I can't
Yeah.
start my day without a cup of coffee or
Me.
12.
Me, don't mess with that. I'm not giving it up. I
Yeah.
refuse.
Then there's some lesser thought of, but I think are starting to kind of become, they're a little endemic right now. Undersleeping, not getting enough sleep. Like how many people brag about, oh, I only slept 4 hours last night, or oh, I get up every day at 4 a.m. and I don't go to bed till 1, right? I think an obsession with health and again weight, how much time you spend thinking about that
Yeah.
and how much it affects your life is where that one will come in.
How about a workaholic?
Yes, working or overcommitting yourself. Yeah, so many people that work,
Mhm.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or longer, and they're just seen as hardworking. But what about the other areas of their life that aren't
Oh
getting
yeah.
attention? Or even just think
Yeah.
about like, weren't there interns in Japan that were dying because of the amount of time, how few sleep that they were allowing themselves? Like
Oh
the employer wasn't
gosh.
requesting it,
Yeah.
but for them, it was well known culturally how hard you had to work to be seen as successful and how much you had to do to make a name for yourself. And they literally worked themselves to death.
To death.
But
Yeah.
so the ones I want to talk about, I didn't see come up in many lists when I was kind of like looking what
Yeah.
was out there. I feel like it's more the stuff we kind of hide behind and we're more addicted to their protection. And we may say, oh, I'm just stuck. Oh, I'm just at a slow point in life. Oh, I'm just figuring out what to do. But really, I feel like you're kind of doing these other things instead.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's hear it.
So, one of the first ones is kind of similar to our last episode on cultivating patience, and it's waiting. And I feel like we talked about how that's kind of more like a low vibe patience when you're waiting for something to happen. And I think kind of the trigger point for me in that episode was that
Oh.
story about the book that I shared, where there was something I wanted and it was really expensive. So I waited, and the waiting paid off. The patience paid off, and I checked in and I was able to get it for the price I was willing to
Mm-hmm.
pay for it. And then it came and I realized I own a book by this author that includes this information and more. And I hadn't read it yet. And I didn't realize it was the same author. And
Yeah.
I
So
didn't.
do you feel like the waiting was something that, do you see that as a recurring thing that you do? Or are
Yeah.
you just
So
no?
you
Oh, okay.
you
Okay.
mentioned you had kind of mentioned or highlighted that you feel like I'm a very patient person, which I would agree. I feel like I've
Mm-hmm.
cultivated that and I've been intentional with that in areas. I think there's many areas of my life where I've just been waiting for things to
Too
happen.
patient. Too patient.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
I feel like the patience has really paid off in some areas of life. And so
Mhm.
that's why I think like people see it as okay in other areas of my life.
You
Um,
know what I just thought of, Tracy? And I don't know that I ever would have thought of it this way. For me, I realize patience is very much safety because then I don't have to confront another person either about
oh,
behavior or something. So, me being patient, while it looks like it's a good trait, a soft skill is actually just safety because I don't like confrontation.
and for me, like the one area where after the conversation where I had to look at like where else are you maybe waiting too
Yeah.
long, right?
Yeah.
And one of the areas, and I'm not saying I don't take any movement on it, but I feel like waiting or patience is nice because you don't have to take action, but you can view it as
Yeah.
like, well, I'm just not forcing it, right? And like, that's good. Good things come to those that wait, Amy.
Yes. And
right?
we
Like, it's
always say
really
if you
socially
force
acceptable.
it, the universe is not going to give it to you.
Who likes a pushy person? And so
Especially
one of the
a-
areas for me has always been love and romance. And while I'm okay being single, someone recently asked, like, if you were alone forever, would that be okay? And I'm like, yeah, it would. Is it what I want? Would it be disappointing? Yes. But like I've been alone this long. I could keep doing it, right? And so it was between our conversation and the one I had with him where I was like, I have 4 sisters. So I've seen all kinds of dating stories and love experiences and romance mishaps and the highs too, right? And I have an uncle who, after something happened with someone in our extended family, looked at me and was like, "You're the one that's doing it right." Because I hadn't had a long-term relationship and I hadn't put myself through all that. And so for me, I had always viewed it until that point as I'm just being patient for the right person because I don't want to go through all this stuff. Like, I have good boundaries, I'm being patient, this and that, but not every relationship is perfect, right? And I didn't think it was, but there's always going to be heartbreak in life, right? Right? Like, there's heartbreak in not going for situations or having experiences too, which would be that disappointment I mentioned, right? So we've talked a lot lately about, my dating, not necessarily struggles. I've had good dates, just not good connections, right? Like, the connection wasn't there. I do pick good men, thankfully, for, for myself, for who I'm interacting with and getting matched with, but it's not really going anywhere. And my recent frustration was, I don't know what more I can do, but I am very aware it's not going to happen in my living room.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Can't, I
But
do have to be ambitious there in a way.
I'm going to question you though, when you say I am good at picking, I'm picking good men or good.
I just mean, I don't have like some huge list, but I've been very fortunate that I'm not getting dick pics, slime balls, kind. That's what I mean.
I get that.
Okay.
Except you're not making a connection. So maybe they aren't the best.
Oh, and I didn't think they were, and I didn't feel like it was a loss. I was just saying I'm not picking jerks. Thankfully, I don't have those horror stories. They're good guys, just not the guy for me.
Mhm.
And so, with that though, I am the type of dater where once I match with someone, I don't try and match with someone else. And it's not that I think this person is my one and only. It's I want to give my full time and attention to this decision. Whereas I think if I wasn't so patient, I might recognize the amount of time you lose with that, right? And that you can double up. You can have more than one first date in a week. You can be in the talking stage with more than one person.
You can. And here's the thing, in real life, you are.
Right.
I don't mean in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it just day to day you are
Interacting with that. Yeah.
So as a writer, so it used to be back in the day, it was poor form to send your manuscript out to more than one agent or editor.
Yeah, because you were courting them. You needed them to feel special.
Well, talk about time. Do you know how much time that? Thank you. Would you close the door?
That's definitely in the publisher's favor when you do things like that, right? Like, it has not in the favor at all of the author, right? That's the publisher gets to do it all in their timeline and still reject you.
You could be losing 9 months. Now, finally, you can say this is, multiple. I'm
shopping it around,
to multiple people at the same time, and you don't have to do that with possible love interests.
Mm-hmm.
The question might come up: Are we? What's the word? What's
exclusive?
Exclusive.
Yeah, but I mean, at the stage of dating I'm in with these people, we're not there yet. I haven't even met them yet, and I'm still.
Have you decided to just be like, hey, let's just see, let's just do this and find as many matches as I can find in one time frame?
I mean, I have done that once, right? And it was just, for me, I had to start making notes in my apps, and they're like, they each had a contact information
Okay,
of
maybe
notes, because
just two.
you don't want to, especially with like texting and, you know, things like that in advance, you don't want to get them mixed up, right? And so
No.
there's an art to it, but there is kind of like, I'm ambitious in other areas of my life. Why am I not being more ambitious in this one? When this is a goal, right? Like, why aren't I
Okay,
like,
stop.
I'm Tenacious Tracy.
Stop. Why aren't you?
Because this waiting thing is safe, and the universe is going to provide, and love finds a way.
So you want like the dream romance. You want it.
No, this is a no fairy tale thing. I'm almost 40. I'm well aware. But there's a safety in not, you know, when you're ambitious with this, it's really disheartening. I mean, those few times I have done more than one person, and we were equally rejecting each other, right? Like, it was clear, both of us in the first date or first meeting or whatnot was like, oh, this isn't it, right? But there's still, you get enough of those in a week, and it's really hard to feel interested in opening the apps again and doing it some more, right? Like, but the thing is, there's a similar burnout with like looking for a job and having to apply for multiple jobs and interview. It's very similar to that.
Yes.
But the thing is, if I don't get a date, my mortgage still gets paid and I'm still fed. I'm not dating these men to get dinner, right? Like, so my motivation for a job, it's just sad, because what's the Oscar Wilde quote? It's, what's your dream job? And he responds, darling, I do not dream of labor. And so this is where it frustrates me, because I don't dream of labor, but I have to have a job. I dream of love and romance, but I don't have that, right? Because all your time and attention there's just a component where I feel like that waiting, and it's socially acceptable because I look like I'm just being cautious, I'm being smart, I'm having boundaries, right? I'm not getting my heart broke. But yeah,
what do you think would need to happen for you to be able to, and I'm not saying we should have to do this, but what do you think would have to happen for you to be able to like gird yourself up enough to be able to be like, rejection. Rejection. Because it feels like, and I know this is going to be very cliched, but back in the day, you know, the whole sort of cliche around guys were that they just like threw that pass. And I'm thinking of Eliza, the comedian. She's like, they just throw that pass, throw that pass, throw that pass. You know. How about you? It's like, it's quantity for them. It's just like quantity. And at some point, someone's going to say yes. So what is that? Like, what?
So I have to say,
you to be able to do that.
So that's another challenge then that I'm facing. And this doesn't really have to deal with waiting. So maybe we need to do another episode on dating. I'm in a different league than those guys are passing in. I am aged out of the bracket of people are just going to be throwing me passes to throw me passes.
No, I'm wondering if you could throw passes.
I do.
No, multiple, and then not be fine with a rejection.
Oh no, that's what I'm doing. And right now it's not even so much, it's waiting for the match, right? So like right now you can swipe and swipe and swipe, and if they don't swipe back, I'm not feeling like that's a rejection, but you have to get people that swipe back to even meet with them to decide if either of you are going to reject each other actually once you meet, right?
Oh, God.
So, I mean, there's just a lot to it. And I think my age combined with the pandemic and the state we live in, not being super social outside certain friend groups, and weather getting it right. Like there's a weather consideration, like in the winter, it's even harder to meet people, right? Like there's all these things that make it really easy to wait, right? It makes it, the whole process of the apps, like I can be active on them, which I am, but I'm not super ambitious, right? Like I don't change and rotate my photos. I'm not getting pictures done. I'm not redoing my profile, right? Like these profiles, damn, they feel like filling out a new resume every 2 weeks. And it's really hard to sell yourself that frequently and that differently.
I had a girlfriend who went to hired a dating coach who literally like taught her how to, and I shouldn't say taught her, she was adept and even taught the coach a
There's
few
an
things, I
art.
think.
There's an art to
But
dating.
there is an art, and also an art to the photographs that I mean, she had professional photographs done for this dating app.
Yeah. And there's also with waiting, I can also most recently, my paid memberships ran out. And so the apps don't really cater to you in the same way as they do when you're paying. And I'm not in a financial position to be investing anymore with the results I've been getting for a little bit. So that further spurs, oh, it's okay to wait, or here's an excuse why I'm waiting, right? Which that one is a logical one, but like now it's like, okay, Tracy, we have the nice weather. If you're not super active on like if the apps aren't supporting you, how can you go and support you, right? Like, but so I think your stuff about rejection, that leads to the next like socially accepted kind of behavior that might be keeping someone stuck, and that's approval. So I think, yeah,
yeah.
I think what's feeding some of my issues with dating is I'm looking for somebody that I like and that I want to like. And I'm not going into it like in my 20s, I'd go into dates with, I hope they like me, and like trying to sell the version of me to get me liked. And now I'm like, I don't give a shit if they like me. Do I like them? Do I like them? Because if I don't like them, it's not going to matter a whole heck of a lot if they like me or not. And if I like them, I want them to like the me I am, right? Like I'm not out there for approval. And so that also, that's a hit for me. But people who are out there for approval, it can keep you stuck. You know, in my late 20s, I pursued a graduate level education and career path for 5-6 years because just people said I'd be good at it, right? And like, of course I'm going to be good at it. As everybody's saying I am. And
it
I
wasn't
can't,
really what you wanted to do.
no. It wasn't a bad thing to do, but like it was, the longer I stayed in it, the harder it was getting to do. And so there was a part of me that was fighting it.
Yeah. It's that sort of zone of excellence and not your zone of genius.
Oh, I love that.
I didn't come up with it. That's Gay Hendricks. And
Okay, Gay Hendricks.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're always afraid to do a change or start something new, or even dress how you want to dress, right? Like be friends with who you want to be friends with, work where you work, because you're worried about what your parents might think, what your friends, your boyfriend, your husband, girlfriend, partner, lover, any of that stuff, that can really hold you back from the best version of you, right? And we're not talking about like being the best in life. Like, as we always talk about, like, what's the best you can do today in life? What do you want to do? And so that approval thing, but like, who's going to tell people like not to seek out approval? I mean, other than us.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question, because I would hope that, I feel like I spent so much of my young adult life searching for approval, and in all the wrong ways. That's a song, right? Searching for love in all the wrong
there
places. We go. Yeah. Searching for approval in all the wrong ways. And no one told me that I didn't have to do that. And I wish someone would have.
What did it do for you while you were doing it? Like, why did you hold on? Did you get anything from it?
I'm sure it was little small. Oh, I'm worthy. Oh, I'm worthy. Oh, I'm worthy. And then after each little, oh, I'm worthy, like eating the ice cream at night, oh, this makes me feel good and comfortable. Then there's the, oh, I'm terrible. I'm full of shame and guilt and stuff like that. I mean, so yes, there were definitely like, someone likes me, I'm worthy. And then at the opposite spectrum, because of how I sought it out, then it was just, it never closed the loop, right? Because it was a constant necessary thing, because this was horrible over here. So I kept doing this, which created more horrible stuff.
So what did you replace
here.
it with? So instead of approval, what did you start living for instead? Or how did you get those needs met in a different way?
I think I grew up.
But what does it mean? So as an adult, you don't need approval? I know plenty of adults still seeking approval at work, bosses, grad school.
I think that, I don't know if you ever completely grow out of that completely, But I think for the most part, at a certain point, I'm like you, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit
You know,
anymore. But it
for
took
me,
me a
for
long
approval,
time. It took
it
me
was
longer than it took you.
it was my around my 30th birthday when I was like, oh, all that stereotypical when you turn 30, like you don't care what people think of you anymore. Oh, that's real. That's real. I don't care. And for me, it was I had the confidence of experience behind me. So when it came to employers, I knew my skill set. I knew how I was marketable and I knew I was hireable. I really don't care if a colleague doesn't like how I dress or how I talk, right? Like I'm getting my job done and I'm doing good work. Doesn't mean that I'm can't receive feedback, but it's not going to send me
Yeah.
into a
Yeah.
spiral if I see somebody in the office doesn't want to be my friend. I don't want to be your friend either. Like it's totally cool with me. Thanks for making an announcement to a third party. Like whereas in my 20s, I would change myself and try and be worthy of their friendship. And why? They're clearly not a nice person. They go around naming people they wouldn't be friends with.
Right. And I really like that you said I tried to change myself. And I think that that's what happened to me as well. I became this chameleon who then could survive in any kind of atmosphere. But that's exhausting, right? Because you're never you then.
Yeah. And I feel like the other side of that, like there's two ways that could go then when you burn out from that. Is one, you recognize where you find that true approval, right? Either in yourself or you find like your place in the world that gives you that confidence, or you realize it's less exhausting just being alone and you kind of just pull back and it's just kind of you. And I mean, there's pros and cons to all three of those options, I'm sure, and how you get there. But I feel like if there's stuff you want to do that feels like you said, what did you said? Your zone of genius, right? If
Yeah.
there's things you want to do and you're afraid about even bringing it up because of what other people might think, you need different people to hang out with, or you need to learn better communication, right? And how to advocate for yourself and have a good discussion with those people that matter in your life that you're worried about. Because I would hope the people in your life would want to support the things that would make you be the best version of you.
But sometimes the people in our life think they're supporting us by protecting us and keeping us back where they want us to be.
Yeah. Heartbreakingly, I just heard a story online of a girl who got into Yale, and she has a very hyper religious family who believes that like education is the devil that's going to destroy her. And made her feel bad for getting into Yale. And another member of the family said, oh, what's that? And she's like, this girl is a diehard fan of Gilmore Girls. She absolutely knows what Yale is. And so it's just heartbreaking because for me, I got into I was like a little Miss Goody Two Shoes. I don't know if I would have called it approval at the time, but I definitely always wanted to do the right thing. And I excelled in school. That was like how I got my approval. And so when I got into college while I was in high school as part of a PSEO program, my father, I now know as an adult, he was a little wounded. His child was lapping him, right? Was going to be more successful than him, may have different opportunities, maybe smarter. Me personally, I want that for my kid. I want my kid to be hella smart, three times as smart, right? Even more to the moon, baby, right? First man on Mars, go for it. But for him, it started an argument, right? Because he started to get really defensive. And when he got defensive, he started arguing. And I just remember him saying, like, I know a lot of really stupid people that got into college. And it was kind of, I think that was one of my moments where I was like, I'm no longer seeking approval because I know this is right. And I just looked at him and was like, I know a lot of stupid people that didn't. And that was the end of any talk in the future of any support. Like the whole reason why I even toured future colleges and got my 4-year degree in graduate school was I had a best friend whose aunt was a professor at a local college, and her family recognized what I was going through and very graciously would invite me on any school visits they did, and anything they had their daughter do, they'd have me do. And so turning 18 was the best thing that happened for me, no longer needing parents for that. And then of course I had the other side of my family that I was able to go to, but that for me, that kind of was like the arrow through the heart for any type of approval I might need from parents. But then I started, like you, kind of seeking that approval elsewhere, getting really close to professors, sucking up in college, breaking the curve, not making friends with peers for sure in a few of my classes. And then that kind of goes into work as like becoming the try harder, this next one, the overly ambitious hustle girl boss culture, right? Like, and then it goes for men too, but
Yeah.
there's healthy ambition and
I
there's
think, yes,
unhealthy.
it does go for men too, but this has been like hyper focused on especially younger women
And
these
usually in a way
for
that takes
quite a few
advantage of
years.
them with like MLMs, the mid-level marketing careers or whatever it
Not
is.
mid-level,
Or what is it? Multi-level
multi-level.
marketing, the little
Yeah.
pyramid schemes and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Which, well, yeah,
anyways,
I have
but
thoughts on that, but I agree with you on that. And the whole hustle culture, it's not healthy. And I can't tell you how many times I have people like DMing me, hey, if you're interested in making money without blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I already have too many things to do. Okay. I don't need this.
but also, I mean, I pursued and stayed in a private sector position because I saw a C-suite opportunity at a very small company and one that would have been deserved. But I was already working like 80 hours a week and I was getting, I was probably on the track to getting ulcers. And when I went home on the weekends, I did not leave my house. I would just sit and binge watch TV because I needed that little bit of respite because I knew my Monday through
Yeah.
Friday was going to be terrible. And finally, I was like, I don't want this. And that's what led me to work in local government. And I know there's a stereotype that we're lazy and we don't work as fast. I work a lot in my 40 hours,
Yeah.
but I really appreciate that I get to say, good night, I'll finish this Monday. And I don't have to
Exactly.
think about it. And
Mhm.
that's accepted and expected, right? There are emergencies in government and those are different people. I did not choose that. I chose a career where I'm not responsible for the issues. I support the people who
Mhm.
are.
Mhm.
But ambition could be getting in your way. It robbed me of 2 years of my life. And then I had and then I was burnt out when I did find a better job and a better fit. But yeah, definitely my last year at that company, I didn't do anything but work. And for what? For what, right? What did I exchange that time for?
Yeah, there should always be an energy exchange, right? But yeah, I would hope that at this point we're beyond. I mean, I still see it popping up, that whole hustle culture thing. It still pops up, but I feel like, and I think people are still really proud of it if they are in that and they expect approval from other people around them that they're hustling so much.
Look at how much I do. Beyonce has the same 24 hours. Well, she has a nanny, right? She has a manager. She has people cleaning
She
her
has a
house
whole
and people
team.
flying her plane. We are
Yeah,
not the same 24 hours.
right, right.
Yeah. Another one that I think could impact women or female presenting people in society is over apologizing. Where are you taking too much responsibility, too much accountability? How is that hurting you?
I don't know what you're talking about, Tracy.
I'm so sorry, Amy. I shouldn't have brought it up.
No, seriously. I have had to teach myself to stop apologizing for everything,
And even
especially things that have nothing to do with me.
and it's often an attempt to make the other person feel better. And even if it wasn't your fault, that act of apologizing, I feel like there's like some little secret tally mark in my head where it's like, oh no, but it was your fault. And like now we're gonna feel bad about it. Now this is a personality
Wow.
trait and this is impacting
Yeah.
your life. And
Yeah.
what's that weight of it on you?
Yeah.
I think one, it's gonna seem a little hypocritical given the type of podcast we are, but self-improvement.
Oh no, I agree 100%. And I feel like where that becomes an addiction is when you consume and don't stop to integrate.
Or also analysis paralysis,
Yes.
where you're always reviewing that self-reflection to a point where you're not going to like yourself anymore because all you see is what should be fixed.
Yeah. The first time I actually looked at my natal chart, my astrology natal chart, I was super excited. And then the more I learned about astrology, the worse I felt. Like it was to the point where I was like, oh, I suck. My life sucks. Great. Thanks a lot. Now, obviously, no. And I don't know why I was just focused on that. Right. But I think that we can do that with self-help. It can be like, oh, it's a wounded child. And I have this wounded child and I'm wounded. And you just never get past that.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between being honest with yourself and like checking in on your long-term goals and are my thoughts and behaviors helping me get there? And is there stuff I want to change? And constantly feeling like everything's wrong with yourself and you're going to be unworthy or not good enough or always be behind in the game. For me, again, around 30 and whatnot, I mean, I'm interested in personal development, but whenever I hear of a new thing, I've really been able to be like, so what if I don't do that? That's okay. That's not for me. Maybe the next time around, right? Like, not now. Maybe not this lifetime. And that's okay. That's for someone else.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't see other people as competition necessarily anymore. And if I've come to learn, if I really wanted it, I'd put the energy into it, right? That I wouldn't have that reaction of, ooh, I don't want to do it. But I definitely, one of the chains that I have is that analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah.
Of just, it's that Virgo brain, right? Like I'm always analyzing and anticipating, and you just burn out from that. Because kind of like you were saying with the astrology chart, you're just always in that low vibe. What's wrong with me? Well, what's right with you?
Right.
What's already good? What doesn't need to be developed? What have
And
you already done a good job with?
I would say same with you. If you are in an analysis paralysis, well, what have you moved forward in? What decision
Yeah.
have you taken action on? Right.
Yeah. And then two others, just real quick before we go, either an overdependence on the routine you have or a lack of routine. That's one of those ones that's kind of easily changeable, or at least in thought, maybe not in practice.
I feel like I used to have no routine and now I have a definite routine, but I'm not thrown off if for whatever
Good.
reason I don't go through it. I just pick it up again the next day.
That's growth. And then also avoidance of change. Staying stagnant is a risk.
Yeah.
And hiding behind what always was and what's been working for you doesn't mean it still or will always work for you later. And so again, this is one of those flip sides of the personal development self-help ones where maybe you do need that, right? Like we all have different devils, different chains, different behaviors.
Yeah.
So we'll post these. I have some things for like, how do you free yourself from these burdens, right?
Nice.
How do you get there? I'll post them on our Instagram page throughout the week. But just consider what's robbing your happiness. Where do you feel empty despite your attempts to fill your cup? How are you filling your cup right now that's maybe not actually filling it enough? What do you keep doing that isn't fulfilling? Where do you feel powerless? What are your negative patterns and how are they holding you back? What was once fun but isn't anymore?
Yeah.
Where have you been stagnant or in the dark? What needs to be brought to the forefront or have light shined on it? And then finally, and the most important, where do you have support?
I love that. I just want to add one thing. It came to me. How are you filling your cup? Are you filling your cup with empty calories? There you go.
All right. Well, if this episode spoke to your soul, please share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful day.